My hat! Alright, so bag 3, I already opened it up and I already cut out all of the pieces and cleaned them up. So that's the thing that you're going to need to do. Now, for the carriers here, or steering blocks, as they call it in the manual, they're labels. So you have a 4L, 4R, and then the other ones are 3. So it just depends if you want to go with the 3mm setup or the 4mm setup. I'm going to use the 4mm setup because that's what is being used here, and I'm going to continue on. Now, a few little things from the previous bag. You are going to have some screws left over, so I have these parts left over. That's what happens. And the 10mm screws that I ended up using from bag 3, it doesn't seem like I'm going to be using them. So hopefully I don't need them, but I will let you know as the build progresses. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the bearings that go in here, and I'm going to do the same thing where I put the shields toward the outside. Now, nothing goes in between the two bearings, so here I just need to seat these and snap them in. It's a very nice fit. And I'll grab 2 more of these bearings. And the bearings that you're using are the 5x10x4 bearings. Let's see, that's not quite flush. Well, I'll come back to that one. Go ahead and press that one in. Great. This one's the only one that's not quite seating properly. But here we go. Oh, come on. Well, this one's not wanting to play. Alright, trying. You can always just grab a flat surface, set the bearing on a flat surface, and then press it in. Not really a big deal. There we go. But you should be able to do it by hand. So that is the first step. Then you will be needing the spindles. Now, it doesn't matter left, right now for the moment. The main thing is to just mind which way it goes. And the way to know is the spindle is going to go wherever the letters are. So if you look for the letters, which is this flat surface, right, you see that this little thing points toward the rear. So this will go here, right in there. And then you will need the 6mm screw, which is these 2 small ones. So you will be using the smaller screws. And do apply thread locking compound here. And you will just tighten these here. Now there are no shims, so there will be no shims, washers, nothing to go in here. It's just the screw. And that is it. So one is complete, and we'll go with the next one. So again, flat side, right, just like that, and 6mm screw. Now, some kits, I'll be honest, some kits you will have parts left over. So do not be surprised if you end up with parts left over. Now, in a kit like this, you will have parts left over because a lot of these little parts you will not be using. You will only be using 2 of them, for example, and then the other ones are for different settings. But sometimes, depending on the kit, you may have parts left over because some of the bags are used in multiple kits. So, for example, a lot of the pieces for this kit are interchangeable with the B6.2, maybe even the B6.3. I have not seen the B6.3 yet. But, arms are not, but a lot of the hardware is, a lot of the basic components, so especially once we get to the transmission. That's the reason why. Well, even these. But that is that for now. And now to continue, we will be needing the block arms, which are these here. And these are carbon fiber. Again, very nice pieces. And for these, I'm going to orient this one this way. And I already have the 8mm balls. studs. So I'm going to put these here. And here, you do not need thread lock, and the reason why is because you have these nylon nuts that are going to go in here. And that's the reason why. Now, for these here, you will need your 5.5 driver, I believe. 5.5 and your 2mm driver, and you're going to tighten these. Do not over tighten, there's no need. Once they're snug, it's good. Now keep in mind that one's going to go one way and the other one's going to go on the other side. So make sure that you do the opposite of whatever you did first. Make sure they're just not backwards, but a mirror image of each other, because you will have a left and a right. And there we go. And I have those parts there. And that is it for step 1. So now step 2, we can move on to step 2. Here we will need 8mm screws, and our 8mm screws are right here. So these are 8s, those are 10s. So we're going to be using 2 and 2, and those I'd already measured and set aside. And now you will be grabbing this. Now the important thing is this goes on the flat side. So these components here will go on the flat side. The other thing too is make sure that you mount the correct one. So that's not going to fit, and that would fit, but then the question is, does the ball go up or down? And the answer is it goes up. So that's the wrong one. You want to go with this one. So it should look like this. Just like that. And because we're threading into plastic, again, you do not need thread lock when you go into plastic. The only times I've had screws back out of plastic are on the arms of a Traxxas Slash, but has those pin screws. So the pins for the arms, those back out if you don't reverse one side. So it's only one side that backs out. But that's normal. Once you set one side front to back, instead of all of them back to front, they no longer back out. Here we go. All right, do not over tighten that, or anything for that matter. Here we go. And I do like the fact that they use carbon fiber for this, or graphite. And the reason why is because it's a lot stronger. The plastic ones do break. So if you've had other kits with plastic, they do break. I mean, on slashes too. That's why generally slashes you want to upgrade to aluminum for the front hub carriers. But these here, I've never had a problem. Well, I never had a problem with the 6.1. I'm assuming it's the same thing here. Even a buggy, I used to have a 6.1, B6.1, a long time ago. It wasn't that long ago, it was probably 4 years ago. That's a long time in RC time. Alright, fine. Let's see. Alright. Which, to be honest, I should have kept that 6.1 and that B6.1 and just made a drag car, just for fun. Although the transmission gear, as you'll see, is plastic, so maybe that wouldn't have been a good idea. But we'll see. Although, on a 15.5, for a 15.5 drag class, that would have been fine. Alright, good. So we completed this part. Now we need to complete this part over here. So we're going to be looking at these. Now, one of the things to note is this side is rounded. This side has, you can see the shape for a hex to go in. And the stock build calls for the outer one. So I'm going to go into the outer hole for this one. And I'm going to go ahead and place the nut and just get it started. And then once I get started, it should just key in there. And then if you just put your finger in here and then just tighten this, it should just go in and tighten. Now, do not over tighten these, and the reason why is if you over tighten, you can ruin the plastic. You can also make the nut spin in there, and that'll ruin that little hex shape that is there to hold the nut. Now, another way of doing it, instead of doing it that way, is you can just go ahead and place the nut in the corresponding spot, and then just grab this and start threading. You do not need thread lock here because it is a nylon nut, but you know, if you put some thread lock on there, it's not going to hurt, but there's no need. It's not going to make a difference. Well, it's not really an improvement, but that is it. Now we get to pick which ones we're going to be using, and the stock build uses the +5 I am seeing here. Really +5. All right, +5, and it points up. So for these, they're all marked, so that's a 0. So they are all going to have, I do not want a +5. I'm going to go with the zeros. Where's that other 0? All right, so this is the only difference from following the directions that I'm going to do so far. And there's a little nub there. That, if you look at this, will affect which way it goes. So 0 is right in the center, which means I can go either way. I can place it up, I can place it down. Now with the other ones, if you're using, for example, a 2.5, one of these, what is this? Well, this is a 5. I grabbed a 5. I can show you with the 5. If it's pointing up, so remember I'm using the 25, so the bulkhead, I have the 25 degree orientation. So if I grab the 5 and I go up, it'll be 20 degrees. If I go down, it'll be 25 degrees. So it'll keep it at 25 degrees. So to be honest, well, I'm always honest, I could use the 0 and it wouldn't matter, or I could use the 5 and the 30. So if I had the 30, the bulkhead, 30 degrees, and then I grab the 5, point it down, it would give me 25 degrees as well. What's the difference? I don't know, you have to run it, to be honest, but I will go with the 0. Although, looking at this, I may actually go with the 5, because I don't want it to be 25 degrees. You know what? I will go with the 5. I will go with the 5, and for mine, I will go 5 down. 5 down will give me 20 degrees. All right, 5 down. And let me grab the other 5. And the reason why I'm going with the 5, just really quick, is I'm planning on running this truck on carpet. So in front, I don't want it to kick up so much. I want it to be a little flatter. That's the reason why. All right, so I'll grab the 5 and I'll point it down. And they'll slide right in. Just make sure when you cut these off, a little spur tree, that you just sand them, or just trim them. You can use a file, a file like this, and then just file the little excess material off, just so that they slide in smoothly. Especially when you want to remove them, you want to be able to slide them out. If not, they'll get stuck in there, and that's a problem. But let's see. All right. So now at this point, we have these aluminum pieces. So these little hats, they all appear to be the same size. Are they? No. 2 of them are shorter. All right. So there's 2 shorter ones and 2 longer ones. And really, it's the hat size. So the hat is the difference. So this one's bigger. So you will have 2 bigger ones, 2 smaller ones. The smaller one goes toward the bottom, and the bigger one goes toward the top. So the 1mm hat goes toward the bottom. So when you grab this, this is going to be the top. So that means that 1 millimeter is going to go at the bottom. So it'll go here. 2 millimeter will go at the top. So again, that's the top. 2 millimeter goes on top. 1 millimeter goes on bottom. And that is that. After this, you're going to need 14 millimeter screws, and 14 millimeter screws are going to be these long screws over here, which I'd already measured. I'm wondering why there's an extra one. I can't figure it out. I mean, I'll figure it out later. Maybe it's an extra screw. But these are going to be the ones that are going to be holding these. Now, right here, if we take, well, actually, I will take this one because this is the one that's oriented similar to the instructions. If we look at this here, we will be needing this one right here. So it will be the left one. Right? This will be the left, as the turnbuckles will be facing forward. And here we go. That's a nice little fit there. And I'm just going to go ahead and screw this on. And again, I hope more of you decide to buy kits and build them. I do recommend them for a variety of reasons. One, the quality of the parts tends to be better, mainly because, well, they don't have to pay somebody to build it. So they can spend a little more on the parts. They can afford to give you slightly better parts. Sometimes a lot better parts. You will see the shocks that come with this kit. That's one of the reasons why. The other reason is you build it. And then, well, it's not just bragging rights. Oh, I built this, which is always nice. But the reason behind it is you can tell how everything is built. Quality control is very good now with many manufacturers, so it's not really an issue, but once in a while you will find that screw will back out. And it's always the worst screw that can back out, the one that's, you have to disassemble a whole bunch of stuff just to fix that one little problem. That was the case with a four-wheel drive Slash. But anyway, that's a different story. It was with the steering. But anyway, I mean, the worst thing that could happen with any vehicle, I have not experienced this firsthand, but if there's a screw that's stripped, and then it just kind of passed quality control somehow. So at least this way you can know how the vehicle is built, right? Because you're the one that's controlling the quality of the build. All right, there we go, perfect. So we have both of them. And, like that. All right, once we have this, now there were two shims. My shims are here. You can barely see them. Those, let's see, on the build, that spacer goes toward the back, which is where I'm going to be placing it. Not just because the instructions say so, but because I want a slightly longer wheelbase. All right, so these here, if you forget, I mean, just look, should be an R. Well, you can't see, but because of the camera. That's right, this is left. The other way too is that one goes forward, and this should be back here for the steering. Now, before I go on, I'm going to go ahead and connect the sway bar onto the arm. So there's that little knob here, and maybe you did this in step 6, maybe you did not. Not a big deal. It just goes in here, and you can just clip that on. That's it. Nothing really too difficult. Well, so far we'll see how this one cooperates. Should cooperate. There we go. All right, so sway bars are on. Now that they are on, I can go ahead and let me just stick a pin in here. I wonder if I have to shim. I want to shim. I don't know why I'm saying shim. I'm not shimming. All right, so just using this file, and I'm just reaming. There's different tools that you can use to ream. You can use a drill bit if you want to, an actual reamer, but anything to, well, a little more. And I'll do it to the other one as well. Let's go ahead and do this one. Oh, this one's a little looser. That's fine. All right. All right, we'll do this. If I need to do a little more reaming later, I will. I'm not sure why I placed it here. All right, let's go ahead and grab this little spacer. We'll leave one there. So this will go towards the back, and this is going to go from the front forward, I believe. Nope, it's from the back forward. I can't really see because of the camera, but it's not going to be able to slip out through there. I will place this here. And I'll go ahead and place the spacer in there. And then once I place the spacer, I will go ahead and just slide the arm, and that's it. Now, if you look at bag 3.3, at this point, I'm actually just ignoring that little piece of paper, which was a little paper with the updated instructions or corrected, what did it say? Oh, supplemental corrected hardware. Because you would be able to figure it out. That's just a waste of paper. I mean, the bag 3.1 was inside of bag 3. So I really did not see the need of having that extra piece of paper. Just like bag 2.1 was inside of bag 2. And considering how small of hardware you need for these components, it would be pretty easy to realize what you need. Now that's the one for here. All right. And we have this. Let's see. We go back to front. There's the little spacer. So I'll place the spacer once it's holding, then I'll slide. Oops. Apparently I'll knock it off. All right, here we go. Then I'll just slide this in here, and I'll just move it forward. Drive this one inside. Now, if for some reason these pins manage to back out, they should not. You can always just put a little tiny washer in there. But it's not much. It doesn't have to grab on too much, to be honest, just to keep that pin in. But here we go. So, at this point, we have completed this, and again, if I refer to this bag 3 step 3, it's referring to those two little tiny screws. All right, which would be this part here. That's it. So, other than that, we've completed everything in bag 4, and we do have some hardware left over. There's some extra screws in there, so don't worry about it. There's no place they could go. And if there is, I will let you know. But other than that, bag 3 is complete. Thank you so much.